Hello and welcome to my Grow Along. Today I'm going to be showing you how to start off your ranunculus corms. So let me show you what they look like when you receive them. So they look like this. They're just they're shriveled. They're a little bit shriveled. What I've got here is I've got 2 buckets, and what we're going to do is soak them before we plant them. And by pre-soaking them, it plumps them up and it rehydrates them. And this is really, really important for ranunculus. Without doing this, it will take them a very, very long time to plump up. And you want to give them a bit of a helping hand. Now, whether you've ordered hundreds and hundreds of them and you receive them in a big net like this, or whether you've got smaller amounts and you've received them in envelopes like this, it really doesn't matter. If you have a lot of different varieties and you do have some kind of net for them, like this one, if you only have a small amount, you can use a little mesh bag like this, and you can pop them into that little mesh bag. So if you've only got 10, 20 of them, you can still do this, and then you only need to use 2 buckets. You just need to label your bag with whatever you've got inside that bag, and you can have 3, 4, 5, 6, however many of them all in the same bucket then, as long as these are labeled. So that's a really good way of putting them all in together. So what you're going to do is you can either pop them loose or in your mesh bag into your bucket, and then we're going to fill the buckets with some water. So I've got my bucket here with my corms inside. Now, if you had a lot of corms, you would just use a bigger bucket, but I'm just going to use a small one here because I've just got this one bag to pop in here. And what I'm going to do is I actually have one of these, let me show you. I have one of these taps, which has a dispenser that pulls out just like this. And that's ideal for what we need here, because what they need is oxygenated water. Now, you can buy one of those kind of bubble machines, bubble makers, that you get for fishes, for fish tanks, and that will create oxygenated water for you. Now, most people, if you've just got a few ranunculus, it's not really worth getting all of that set up. So the way that you can oxygenate your water, there's a couple of ways, but this, for me, is the best way, is you can just use this, and if I turn this on, you can see I get this really lovely jet of water that comes out. Now, you can also use a hose pipe. If you don't have a tap like this, you can use a hose pipe to do the same thing, and you're going to fill your bucket, and instead of just filling it with a little bit of kind of flat water, you're going to oxygenate it by using the jets on the tap or the hose pipe to do that. So if I turn this on, give it a bit of a swirl in there. So I've now got a little bit of oxygenated water in the bottom, and what I'm going to do is set my alarm. And every 20 minutes, I'm going to come back and I'm going to put some more oxygenated water in there every 20 minutes for the next 4 hours. So you can't just pop them in there and leave and go out somewhere. You kind of need to be home to give them that oxygenated water. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just leave these for the next 4 hours and keep oxygenating them. Okay, so these have had their 4 hours. Let's go and plant them. Okay, so now I've got my soaked corms in my little baggie. I'm going to remove them from the bag, and let me just show you one of the plumped up corms versus a non-plumped up corm. And you can see the difference there in the size of these 2 corms. This one's the nicely plumped up one. It's really fat and plump. It's lovely. And then this is the dried out one. This is the dehydrated one. This is the hydrated one. So you can now begin to see why it's so important. It's ready to take off. It's ready to germinate. This one's not really ready for very much yet. Okay, so that's the difference that you should see in your corms when you've soaked them. And don't exceed the 4 hours. Don't soak them for any longer than 4 hours. It's not going to benefit them in any way. They won't germinate any better. And actually, they'll just begin to rot. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to plant those corms. So this is what we call pre-sprouting. So I'm actually going to plant mine in a tray just like this. So you can do it, this is quite a small tray, it's a half tray. You can do a full tray if you have more of them, or you can also plant them in singles like this. I tend not to. I'm only planting a small amount now for the grow along to show you how it's done. I'll actually be doing mine in probably about 2 weeks time, so I don't want to plant them all just yet. It's a little bit too early for me. So all I've done is I've just filled this seed tray with some compost. Now, it has got some perlite and vermiculite in there. It was just because that's what was in my my compost pile at the time. I already had the compost and vermiculite in there because I've been doing some planting. If you've just got perlite or you've just got vermiculite, that will do. If you've just got compost, that will do. It's fine. This medium at this point, it doesn't really matter, because what you're going to do is plant them for pre-sprouting. So what pre-sprouting means, before you actually plant them in their final location, you're going to give them a helping hand, essentially. So then you're only planting out the ones that are viable, that have pre-sprouted as well. And you can protect them from creatures as well, which is really, really important. We have a lot of mice and we have a lot of squirrels around here that will eat my ranunculus and my anemones. They won't eat the daffodils because they're poisonous. But they will eat the tulips as well. So I do need to be really, really careful with these. So I'm going to plant mine in here. And let me show you once again here, the plumped up corms versus the non-plumped up corms. So you can really, really see a difference there in these ones on the right hand side, which are really plump, and these ones which are a little bit spiky, a little bit dried out. And these ones are just lovely, lovely, plump and ready to plant. So as you can see, they look a little bit like bananas. And then I've got the crown here just at the top. So this is where all of the roots will come out, all around here, all around this crown, and they will dangle down, and then the stem will come out of here as well. Okay, so we're going to plant them this way up. That is upside down. You don't want these pointy bits sticking up out of the ground. You want the pointy bits sticking down into the soil. So here is my tray I'm going to plant them into, and I'm simply going to just push them in to the soil just like this, really gently, one by one, next to each other. And you can plant them quite close together. I mean, I've probably got like a centimetre in between them, so it's not a lot. They are very, very close. But don't forget, they're not going to stay in here forever. They're only going to be in here for a few weeks. And in about, roughly, we'll say 10 days time, you will, probably less than that, probably about 7 days, you'll be able to see some sprouting. But 7 to 10 days, you should definitely see the sprouting. And you'll see those little white rootlets starting to form. And I would normally leave them in here. I'm going to water these in, and I'm going to place them somewhere dark. And when I say dark, it doesn't need to be pitch black. I'm going to actually put them in my greenhouse. But what I'm going to do is, with the next colour, I'm going to pop my next variety or my next colour into the next tray, and I will essentially just stack them on top of each other like this. And I'll provide, you know, there's a little bit of dark in there, there's a little bit of light around the edges, but I find that doesn't really matter. And so that's how I save space as well. I stack them up on top of each other and put them in my greenhouse, and then that's where I leave them, and I check on them every single day. So you don't need to keep them inside. They are a cool flower. The French ranunculus are actually a little bit more heat tolerant than the Italian ranunculus. They'll put up with a little bit more heat. So especially in the spring weather that we've been having recently, where it's been exceptionally hot. It was exceptionally hot this year, very hot last year as well. What that means is they're a little bit more able to cope with that, which is really, really good news. But they are still a cool flower. So they do not need heat. You don't need to put them on a heated mat, and you certainly don't need to put them inside. And a greenhouse is absolutely fine. So if this compost starts to dry out a little bit, then I will give it a water. It should be okay for the next 10 days. Now, my greenhouse is actually quite shady at the moment. It doesn't get that much sunlight at this time of year, so I know mine will be okay, but yours might be in a bit more of a warmer location. You just keep your eye on them and give them a water if they do look like they're drying out. They won't germinate properly, or they won't sprout properly if they're allowed to dry out. So in a couple of weeks, when these have sprouted, I will do a part 2 for you, and I'll show you how to plant them in their final locations. just a bit of a PS for you. If, like me, you have rodents, whether that be mice or voles or what have you, and squirrels, then be warned, because ranunculus are what they eat for breakfast every single day. The tulips they'll have for lunch, and your anemones they'll have at tea time. So you will need to protect them. So you can put netting over the top of them, or you can put like a mesh over the top of them, like a chicken wire, something like that, just to protect them and stop them from getting to the corms. You will thank yourself when you have a bed full of corms rather than empty beds like I did one year, because they ate every single one of them. Be warned.